We'll call our Joint Conference Committee to order. Do we need to take roll on Joint Conference Committees? We do?
One time.
One time.
Yes.
Let's do it next time. No, let's go ahead. We'll do it this time.
All right. Representative Larson.
Here.
Representative Schwartz.
Here.
Representative Stith.
Here.
Representative Walters.
Here.
Senator Guru.
Here.
Senator Hicks.
Excused.
Senator Kinski.
Here.
Senator Steinmetz. Co-Chairman Nicholas. Chairman Perkins.
Here.
You're all here.
All right. With that, welcome. We're glad to have welcome to anybody in the room and anybody attending online, and welcome members. Here we are in the aftermath of last week. And so with that, Don, do you want to take us through? You want to just give us take us through the sheet and let us know where we're at?
Mr. Chairman, the first page on your 4 pages this is the combined Joint Conference Committee summary report. So this combines your House explanations and your Senate explanations that you received earlier this week. The first 16 amendments on the House side mirror the first 16 amendments on the Senate side. So all of page 1 is identical amendments. There was a typo in Senate second reading amendment number 27, but it was only in the introduction above the stars, as we say, not as part of the amendments. Nonetheless, we would ask that you take the House amendment on line 28, or excuse me, the Senate amendment on line 27. The subsequent pages 3, 4, and 5 are ordered in agency order, not in House or Senate order, but they are grouped together, and you will see a good example of that is on lines 41, 42, and 43. These are all very related amendments regarding the nuclear agreement state status with the U.S. Nuclear Commission. On the House side, for example, they included an additional $150,000. On the Senate side, they did not include additional funds, but allowed the department to expend up to $150,000. So those 3 are very similar, but not identical. And I'd be happy to walk through all of the amendments beginning on page 2 if you want, or.
So could you on page 2, Don, could you identify there? You had 41, 42, and 43 as near identical. Excuse the other ones that are near identical. I think there's more than just those 3.
Yes, on page 3, lines 52, 53, and 54, again, similar but not identical. Both the House and the Senate agreed to provide additional funds for community juvenile services boards. On the House side, it was associated with an appropriation of $3 million of general funds. On the Senate side, it was associated with $1.2 million. In addition, the Senate added an additional sentence which would condition the funds on the collection of certain demographic details for those students. The next comparable is right below that on lines 56 and 57. This relates to the payment processor. On the House side, the footnote conditioning $250,000 of general funds applied to both the University of Wyoming and the Wyoming Business Council. On the Senate side, this amendment only applied to the University of Wyoming, such that $250,000 is not effective until the AG certifies that the payment processor utilized by Shop Wyoming is compliant with Wyoming Statute 1310-302A. And then the fourth and final similar amendment actually appears in 2 different places, line 48 and line 61. And this is the technical corrections. And really, I think the Senate is what I'll call pristine or clean, meaning it only addresses items in the bill. And the House amendment would be conditioned upon 2 other amendments, House third reading amendment number 11 and House second reading amendment number 46. So this will probably be a delete and further amend, and we'll will depend on whether or not you adopt those two House amendments. They included some cleanup language in their technical correction.
Okay. Anything else of particular note you think we ought to keep in mind as we move forward?
No, Mr. Chairman, as indicated, if you want me to explain a couple when we get there, that would be fine as well, or not.
Okay. Fine with that. Members, what's your pleasure?
Chairman?
Yes, go ahead. Senator or Representative Larson.
So I'd make a motion on that first page on our similar or on our ones that the amendments that are the same. And if Dawn can help me, but I believe what I'd like to do is on items number 1 through 16, adopt the House amendments, delete the Senate amendments. And from items 17 through 32, adopt the Senate amendment and delete the House amendment.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any? They're identical. Oh, all those in favor say aye. One page done. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be brave here.
If you're going to be brave, you say?
Brave. Try and be
Okay.
brave. And
We admire courage, although sometimes it gets you killed, but go ahead.
I know, and at least scarred. So, and the reason I wanted to make this amendment is because I'm going to have to leave for a personal bill, but I'd like to go to page 3 and look at items 52, 53, and 54. And this is on the Juvenile Service Board language there. I would move that we adopt item 54, which is the Senate 30 reading amendment number 7. And then on items 52 and 53, where we talk about the monies, I would further amend, and my logic, and I'll explain my logic is what we've asked them to do and what they've requested and what we've asked them to do is kind of determines the amount that we should fund them. We've told them that we want them to incorporate this statewide, but come in and immediately take care of those programs that are currently being provided. So if we take, and that request was for $250,000 to get them through this fiscal year. So if we deduct that $250,000 from the Senate's overall appropriation, that would only allow them enough to cover the same existing programs through the biennium and not expand to do any more. Now that 1.2 number, you'll recall, was the amount that the agency had been using for this after they had taken a couple of different cuts. Their historic appropriation for that program was $2 million. And so my proposal would be is to amend and adopt $250,000 immediately and $2 million for the biennium. And so that's going to reduce the House position from $3 million down to 2.25, increase the Senate position up to 2.25. And the rationale is to take care of the immediate, this fiscal year stuff, and then allow the agency to try and incorporate this more statewide. And then with that item 54, include the requirements for them to provide demographic details.
Okay, I heard a second from, I believe, Representative Schwartz. Is that okay? So when we were talking about this, so maybe you can just help a little bit. We went back and our $1.2 million number was went back and asked them, or asked the folks at, I think, my recollection is we asked the folks at DFS what was the number that had been appropriated before and what they were using. And that's where we got the $1.2 million number. Now, we didn't talk about effective immediate amounts that I we wanted to do this on the Senate side, but I'm just looking to understand I get the 250. That's apparently this was offered up. And so there's no money to do anything for the remainder of the year. But the remainder of the year is only, by the time this bill goes into effect, this remainder of the year is only 3.5 months.
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't disagree with that. That 250 was in both House and Senate amendments. That's why I got that, the effective immediately part. And I might ask Dawn or Elizabeth, but as I recall, if we go back prior to the step 2 and step 3 in the 2015 reductions, this had historically been at about $2 million. And then the last general one after the cuts that funded it as it currently is was at the 1.2. So your number is not wrong, but that was down from what it had been.
So can you tell us, help us, Dawn or Elizabeth, can you help us with what was the last biennial appropriation for this program?
We'll have to look that up, but we will do so.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, question for Representative Larson. I just want to make sure I'm clear. What I heard you say is 2 million plus 250 or 2.25, or did you mean 2 million of which 250 is available immediately? In other words, that'd be 1.75.
Mr. Chairman, my motion, Senator Kinski, as you stated at first, was 2 million with an additional 250 effective immediately. So it'd be 2.25.
And go ahead, Representative Schwartz.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, and just to add on to what the good Vice Chairman said, and your comment about the 250 is only covering a little bit of time.
That's a quarter
It's
from 2
roughly
million.
It's roughly a quarter of the year. You do the math, that
Yeah.
gets us to 2 million a year.
Yeah. No, it's 2 million, it's 2 million a quarter per quarter. I mean, 250,000 per quarter is 2 million over 2 years. Yeah.
So the motion makes sense.
I'm impressed that Representative Schwartz does math in public. Not everyone's willing to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but then I misstated it, so I ruined my good math.
Yeah. Yeah. I have the same problem. It works fine here, but it doesn't always come out the right way.
Mr. Chairman, with respect to your inquiry, the general fund portion was $2.4 million in 17 and 18 prior to the 1920 budget, in which case they combined this function with other functions within the department. So you can't disaggregate that.
Okay, so but the most recent one was
2.4.
2.4. All right. So 2.25 is a bargain. Okay. All right. We got a motion. Are we ready to vote? Any other questions? All right. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just for a technical point, because the line 54, Senate third reading amendment number 7, amended something that you deleted and further amended, all of those will show up as delete and further amend, and we'll capture the motion in that manner.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I be excused?
What depends what bill it is.
It's the Honor Drew Perkins Memorial Bill.
Oh, then, no, you're not excused. Doing that. Don't waste your time on that.
Thank you.
Hurry back. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, on the top of page 2, Item number 33, Senate Second Reading Amendment number 1, Division 3. This allows the Office of the Governor to utilize FNRPA funds or Federal Natural Resource Policy Account funds for purposes of litigation relating to treaties between the U.S. and federally recognized Indian tribe. So this is item number 33 on the top of page 2 of your summary sheet. The item number 34 is a removal from several agencies, including the Office of the Governor, State Treasurer, Tourism Board, and Department of Corrections, of the reports that are included in the reports bills that are moving through separately. Item number 35 is a Senate Second Reading Amendment number 35, and this makes the funds for the Black Hills National Forest Plan revision. I believe that was $1 million appropriation from FNRPA effective immediate. So the only action on that motion is to, or that amendment is to make the appropriation effective immediate. No, Mr. Chairman, you did not have a similar amendment. It only is on the Senate side.
Okay.
Item number 36 provides funding for 4 additional joint resolutions that may appear on the 2022 general election ballot. Those are 2 that relate to investments. 1 relates to the age of justices, mandatory retirement, and the 4th relates to potential property tax relief for senior citizens.
And that's just, so this just gets it to 5 times the 64,000.
And Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, if you do the math, it is not 5 times. It is literally dependent on the lines being printed.
Oh, okay.
So that's why some of them are a little more. Some are a little less.
Column inches.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. No, if you want to take care of that one right now, I don't care.
And Mr. Chairman, it already is, and it actually has a reversion date of June of 2023. So it reverts right back if this is not spent.
Okay.
If you'd like, and because this is dissimilar, or it is subject to revision, if you wanted it to revert, say, no later than December 31st, you would have those funds available for appropriation next year.
Why wouldn't we do that? Okay. Somebody's got to move it.
Mr. Chairman, I would move House third reading number 47, and I would actually delete and further amend it to leave the dollar value the same, but add in new language that says these dollars will revert at the end of 2022, December 31st, 2022. I think that's what we were looking for.
I think that's what we all had in mind. All right, got a motion and a second by Senator Steinmetz. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is item number 37. It's a Senate third reading amendment, provides 3 FTE and $681,000 from the special revenue. That's investment earnings in the State Treasurer's Department or office. And it also provides $1 million from the same revenue source for contracted accounting consultation.
Let's hold that one off. I've got some other information coming that might help us with that. So let's hold that one off a little bit.
Item number 38, House third reading amendment number 3, removes the choice between the additional position funded in the State Treasurer's Office. The choice in the current bill is a CEO or a COO, and the CEO has been eliminated. So the position would be a COO only. And it also removes reference to the recommended maximum benefit of that position by the IFC.
Thanks. Continue.
Item number 39, Senate second reading amendment number 1, Division 2. This reduces the exception request for the Veterans Museum in the amount of $267,000. It also, importantly, removes the secondary caps for the severance tax, which appears in section 314, as well as the secondary caps for federal mineral royalties, which appears in section 315.
Okay,
Item number 40, House third reading amendment number 4, provides $70,000 general fund new appropriation for the rangeland health assessment program in the Department of Agriculture. Item number 41, House third reading amendment number 7. And we've talked about this one before. It's related to the next two items on rows 42 and 43 on the Senate side. This is a new appropriation on the House side of $150,000. No new money on the Senate side, but similar direction in the footnote to prepare a feasibility study in the Department of Environmental Quality to obtain agreement state status with the U.S. Nuclear Commission related to mining and processing of rare earths. Items 44 and 45 go together. They're House amendments only. Provides for an additional total appropriation of $10 million for pathways. And then item number 44, which is House third reading amendment number 8, ensured that the matching requirement there is $1 to $1 rather than 20 cents to $1. Item number 46.
so
Senate.
hang on,
Yeah.
just before you go there. So the matching went from, well, who was was the 20 local versus
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
80
In the-
80 cents, 20 cents local versus face, and then it was a minute to go to 1-to-1?
That's
What I
correct.
understand. All right, thank you.
Item number 46, Senate third reading amendment number 5, Division 1. Provides, this was a divided amendment as noted. It provides a footnote: in the event there are insufficient funds in the school capital construction account, reduction shall be made uniformly, which is current law. in
Which is
state
current
statute.
law. All
Yes.
right.
Item number 47, House second reading amendment number 13, makes the $1 million appropriation, which appears in both bills, effective immediately. So just for just pointing out the obvious, on line 35, you have a Senate amendment for $1 million, and the only change is to make it effective immediate. And on line 47, different appropriation, but it's a House effective immediate only.
You said 30, this matches with 35.
Well, the only 35 is a Senate amendment that makes an appropriation effective immediate, and the appropriation happens to be $1 million. And on line 47, this House amendment, the only thing it does is make another separate, different
okay.
amendment.
All
But
right.
the only thing that's happening there is
You're
the
just pointing
timing
out
of the
there's
appropriation.
they're $1 million from each house, and okay, I get, okay, got it. What's that?
No fiscal.
Well, yeah, there's a $2 million fiscal impact, but there's it's a swap for a swap, I think.
Correct.
Right.
And with regards to the acoustic, same thing.
Same thing. I'm just trying to
So,
point
Mr.
out.
Co-Chair, I would move that we would adopt the Senate's on the Big Hills National Forest Plan to go effective immediate, and House on 20138 on acoustics to go immediate.
And so just adopt both of those
Yeah.
in whole. All right, got a motion and a second from Senator Kinski. Ready to vote? Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'm now on the top of page 3. And I had mentioned on item number 48, House third reading amendment number 48. This is the technical corrections amendment, and it is very similar to item number 61, Senate third reading amendment number 27. However, I don't think it is ripe to discuss this one until you address House third reading amendment number 11 and House second reading amendment number 46.
We'll say, wait, so on, and you're talking about line 48.
Yes, line
And what are the other lines we need to discuss in connection with this?
line 50. And the only issue is that amendment was missing a shall. So it is kind of tied to that technical correction. So if you delete line 50, you probably want to take the Senate technical corrections. If you adopt line 50, the House technical corrections would be more in order. And then there's a similar issue on House second reading amendment number 46, which appears on line 63. Fortunately, all these are on the same page. And this, I mean, this is not the worst thing in the world, but it was a plural versus singular. And we changed in the technical correction these appropriations to this appropriation. So again, if you throw out line 63, probably best to take the Senate's technical corrections.
And just to going back to line 48, just to verify, all the bills referred to in line 48, all those references, those bills have not, they've died. They haven't made the switch over.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. And all of those bill references are also taken out of line 61 on the Senate side.
Okay.
All those failed due to time, if not vote.
So in doing this, we would, so lines 48, 61, and 63, those are ones we can deal with. Those all have to do with technical corrections. We just need to make we get the right mix and match.
That's correct. So I would suggest line 50 and 63 have a substantive issue associated with them. Line 50 appropriates $1 million, I'm going to round there, in general funds to be matched by $7 million. If you adopt that, we'll grab the relevant portion of the House technical amendment. But that's a substantive choice for the committee, whether you agree with the increase in appropriation.
We'll work on that. Go ahead and continue.
Continuing on, item number 50, House third reading amendment number 11 is, excuse me, I skipped one. Item number 49, Senate third reading amendment number 23. This provides a footnote, no money, directs the Department of Health to negotiate for a FMAP rate that is more consistent with the surrounding states. As you know, there's one county in Wyoming that has a disproportionate impact on the FMAP calculation for the state. Item number 50, I just spoke of, that provides just shy of $1 million of general fund to be matched by $7 million of federal funds. This was an exception request in the budget. The governor denied it. JAC denied it. The House has restored it. And this relates to ARPA funds that are directly provided to the department, separate and apart from any of the ARPA funds that this committee has been discussing or writing legislation on, and allows those funds to be used for older American acts, largely for senior centers and nutritional services.
So here's a question. I mean, as we talked about this in Senate, we've given the Director of the Department of Health superflex authority. So there's substantial funding in there. Is there anything that prohibits the director from finding essentially $1 million of this money to match with this other money? Did we have anything that indicated that this was absolutely had to be in there? Was no other way that this happened?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of any prohibition of doing exactly as you described, either immediately with this year's appropriation or any carryover money or any new appropriation.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, theoretically, we'd have to take money from Peter to pay Paul if he's doing it. It doesn't just have to happen to have $1 million floating around. So I guess the question, what we'd like you to do is contact Stefan and ask him if he could do it through his current budget, and then if so, what the impacts would be.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Senator Kinski.
the department's willing to do that. They're just waiting because they believe there's talk that the feds may waive the match requirement.
Mr. Chairman,
They've been holding off, waiting to see. Otherwise, he would have done it by now.
Mr. Chairman, Would we need language to encourage the department to go do this? If we just eliminate this amendment altogether, then the department no longer has any guidance from us that this is a priority. And so would we still want some sort of language that says, go forth and do this project with funds that you have within your agency?
I think those are good points, and we'll keep those in your back of your mind, folks. So let's
And
keep,
hopefully Stefan's listening or
yeah, we'll
something.
get Stefan listening. We'll just get clarification, Stefan. Let's keep moving on.
You know, at one point, Mr. Co-Chair, I thought we were working with some language to say that if it's waived, then that's great, but if it's not, then we were going to fund. Didn't we have that discussion?
So let's get the information from Stefan and we can make the best decision. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, item number 51, Senate second reading amendment number 13. This was the Kinski amendment on the Senate side, and it clarifies the ability for the department to use the general fund appropriation. I believe it's in the amount of $2.7 million for the WISE program, or the Wyoming Home Services Program, and that the conditions on those funds are for continuation of the program for fiscal year 2024.
okay.
You've addressed items 52, 53, and 54. So my next,
So while we're on number 51, Senator Kinski, why don't you just flesh that out for us?
On item 50, line 51.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, actually, I thought that was an amendment that we did in JAC. This is conditioning further funding from ARPA based on them coming back to JAC on the means testing of this program. I don't know if Chairman Nicholas, if you recall that discussion we had, that we wanted a more robust means test than is currently being applied to the program.
Which I think, what I recall, I remember this now, and what I recall in the discussion in here when we were doing the budget was we put that back. We wanted him to come out and do means testing. And to do that, he's got to go back. If you're going to be successful in applying for a waiver in that program, we have to tighten up the means testing. And so what this footnote was trying to flesh out what we thought we had done, but apparently we didn't do in JAC.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
So Chairman Nicholas, now I recall, the reason I amended it on the floor is the senior centers were reading this as saying they had to have this means test written and implemented by June 30th, 2022, which was not what we meant. And staff didn't read it that way, but just to assuage their concerns, we made it clear that they have to have that means test reported back to us on or before June 30th, 2023, which is what I think we had meant when we were in committee.
Mr. Chairman. So would the effect of this footnote mean that means test will be mandatory as of June 30th, 2023?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
there's no substantive change in this footnote to what JAC did. Whatever we did, this footnote leaves it alone. Staff believed it was the senior centers were believing, they were reading our footnote as passed by JAC to say they had to have it done by June of 2022 to assuage their concerns. This amendment simply makes clear that it's not due until June 30th, 2023. Otherwise, there's no substantive change to what this committee voted to do.
So,
Representative
Mr. Chairman, follow up. My understanding was that we were funding it for 1 year, for the 2023 year, and we were asking the department to go for a section 1115 waiver to get some federal funding, so it's not all general fund. But I didn't recall that the committee had taken any action about saying you will or you will not have a means test.
No, let's back up. I think we're still not communicating. What he's saying is that when they looked at when the senior citizen centers looked at our footnote, they thought that that all had to be effective on July 1st of 2022, which is just 3 months from now. What it does is say, no, the means testing, all it was trying to do was say, no, the means testing doesn't have to come back. There's no report, and there's no means testing until at least July 1st of 2023. So it was making sure that the program was going to remain as it was for at least this first fiscal year. That's what the intent was. If there's something that if there's something that's unclear about that and you want to make it more clear, I mean, I don't think there's any opposition to that. Representative Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But to be clear, that date does not apply to the waiver application, I'm assuming.
It wasn't intended to be. It was intended to only say, we're not going to means test this. The earliest this can be means tested is next year. Is the fiscal year 20, would be the fiscal year beginning July 1st of 2023. So it's fiscal year 2024. So
Which in fact is what we voted to do.
Which is what we-
It
we
just
thought
was
was what
not
we
clear to
voted
the
to do.
senior centers.
To follow up, I just want to make sure the date is not applying to the effort to get the 115, the 1115 waiver.
we don't think so. That's not the intent.
Okay.
I mean, you get the waiver when you get the waiver. So we can put whatever dates we have in here, whether or not the CMS meets those dates is.
So, Mr. Co-Chair, my inclination is to have Vice Chair Larson and your Vice Chair get together on
Just
this
together and
just tell
work
us
out the
what-
language, make sure we're on we're all going the same direction. Okay. See, it wasn't anywhere near as disruptive as you thought. All right, so continue, Don.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is item number 55, Senate third reading amendment number 9. This was only adopted on the Senate side and adds a footnote to indicate the University of Wyoming shall not expend any funds, general, federal, or other, on any gender studies courses, academic programs, co-curricular, or extracurricular programs.
Okay.
Item number 56, Senate third reading amendment number 10. This is very similar, and I touched on this at the beginning of to the next one related to the payment processor. The only difference there is the application to the Wyoming Business Council or not. Item number 58, House second reading amendment number 27 provides for clarifying language on the appropriation adopted in this committee for the School of Energy Resources related to the use of carbon dioxide from electric generation facilities in public works projects. It also makes that $300,000 effective immediately.
So Don, could we have someone, and I saw Mr. Mai just walk in. I'm just curious, what I'd like to find out if the UW and/or Business Council has looked into this to see what has to be done to fix it. So I see a nodding of the head. So can we just have Mr. Mai come up and tell us what the status of this, so I can explain it to us?
Sure, we always like to phone a friend in these committees. Always happy to. Hi, Bill, come on up. Or use the karaoke mic. We don't care.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
what specifically are you looking for an answer to? Does it belong to UW, the website, or?
Well, we're wondering what it's going to take to modify your payment processor so it's compliant with Wyoming Statute 13-10-302.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's a great question. It's one that our SBC folks are looking into right now. It was an issue that was brought up last year with them too. I want you to be aware that the current payment processor does not accept, does not facilitate those purchases. However, the website itself will accommodate any of those kinds of vendors, but the vendors themselves have to take the payment on their own through their own means, the way it currently is structured. So the answer is we're either going to have to find another payment processor as spelled out in the amendment, or redo the website itself.
So do you have, I mean, what's it going to take to get a new vendor? Do you have a outstanding contract And is there a term to the contract?
Mr. Chairman, we can always terminate our contracts. All the university contracts are set up for, 30 or 60-day outs. So we can get out of it now.
Is there a processor that can do it?
That's a great question, Mr. Chairman. I would assume that the answer to that is yes, because there are actual websites that deal in firearms. So I would assume so. But what I don't know is what the consternation will be with all the existing vendors who are on the website and what the migration of that website would look like. But we will get those answers to you.
Well, and I'd like to know, there's no reason why you can't have two vendors on your website, one for guns and one that does everything else.
We'll have to track that down. I assume that's correct as well.
So the obviously is issue of timing.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
So-
If I assume that this joint conference committee is not going to wrap up this morning before 10 o'clock.
You never know, but go ahead.
But we intend to be wrapped up by the end of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I was going to say, Mr. Chairman, was that I will provide you a better answer by noon.
Okay.
Follow up on that, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Thank you,
Representative
Mr. Chairman.
Walters.
Mr. Mai, is there, as you're looking into this, I guess one question that was brought up is, because this website is also funded with small business development federal funds, that may be one of the restricting factors on the payment processor. And so it would be good to know if the federal partnership creates problems as well.
We will include that as part of the answer, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anything else on this issue? All right, continue.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're on item number 59. And this is just a clarifying amendment. It removes district courts from the workload study in the Supreme Court.
Right, and then so the workload study is only for circuit courts this year. If they do a district court judge study next year, they'll have to include this in district court judges.
Mr. Co-Chair, I would move that amendment.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All those in favor say aye. All right, it's adopted.
Item number 60, Senate Second Reading Amendment number 24 eliminates the ECA for utilities and educational supplies.
Okay,
Item number 61, Senate Third Reading Amendment number 27, we've spoken about just previously. That's related to item number 48, the Senate version of the technical corrections.
right. We'll work that out. Okay, keep going.
Item number 62, Senate Second Reading Amendment number 25. This is language only to sustain any K-12 grant support from the Wyoming Department of Education related to applied agriculture and farming programs such as FFA in the next biennium.
Okay,
Item number 63, House Second Reading Amendment number 46. This is a reporting requirement on the Board of Equalization, only on the House side, would require the board as a condition of receiving funds in the budget to provide a report on the number of appealed decisions decided in favor of the residential taxpayer and those decided in favor of county assessors.
okay,
Mr. Chairman, the last page, page 4. At the
go ahead.
On 62 and 63, I would make a motion to delete both.
Well, hang on to that one because I think we want to do what else was above, but I think there's a package of 4 there that are just logically there, and we want to make sure what it does. Okay,
Item number 64, top of page 4 on your summary sheet is Senate Third Reading Amendment number 14. And this provides an appropriation from the general fund to the SIPA account. This was part of the budget balancers. There is no problem with the general fund this year, but staff foresaw the potential of overspending the SIPA account either in this bill through amendments that were offered or in the state capital construction bill. However, none of these have materialized. So the amendments that would have overspent the SIPA in the budget bill all were defeated or withdrawn on
Okay,
either
so
floor.
we don't need this.
You don't necessarily need it. It does have implications. And the reason I say that is twofold. Number one, the capital construction bill is on second reading in the House. There is opportunity that they may have some amendments that would be impacted by this $100 million.
Could we do a similar, could we do a similar budget balancer in a conference committee?
Absolutely, and you could do it on the CapCon bill.
That's what I mean, in the
Yes.
CapCom bill.
The second issue, just for clarity, is whether or not this money, because now on the Senate side, $100 million is being taken out of the general fund effective immediate and put in SIPA. Well, that affects how much money will tip to the LSRA. As a result, that has an impact on item number 72 and whether or not there would be funds that would tip into the Wyoming's Tomorrow program. So under the Senate position with the movement of funds to SIPA, there is literally no chance, even at $120 oil, that any money would go into Wyoming's Tomorrow. If you delete this amendment, it becomes much more likely with high oil prices, high natural gas prices, that some tip may occur into Wyoming's Tomorrow. So I just wanted both sides to be very aware of the secondary implications of this amendment.
So you're saying there's a chance. Okay, fair enough. All right, that's a little bit different than I thought. Okay. Very interesting. All right, continue, Don.
Item number 65 modifies the two $75 million deposits to the common school account and the permanent mineral trust fund on the Senate side and puts the full $150 million into the PMTF. Item number 66 makes those same appropriations, $75 million to PMTF and common school, and rather than depositing them into the corpus of those two permanent funds, deposits them into the associated reserve accounts. Item number 67 is a transfer of $6 million to the municipal solid waste landfill remediation account.
Don, and just so I understand what that means. Without raising the cap on the school side, depositing into the reserve account on the school side, it will tip into the permanent fund. Is that right?
Mr. Chairman, not under our current Craig forecast, because we anticipate that in our current profile and current forecast that the guarantee to the common school or school foundation program will be more than that $75 million. So that $75 million will keep you below. However, if the state treasurer's office exceeds the spending policy of 5%, yes, the 75 million will be tipped into the corpus. So it becomes dependent upon unknown investment income 3 months from today.
Well, I'm sure that Patrick is going to exceed the 5%. Right, Patrick?
Yeah, that thumbs up gave me confidence. The shooting war in Europe. This is great. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, item number 67 is the $6 million deposit to the landfill account. Item number 68 provides for a use of $4 million appropriated during the 2021 session for purposes of cryptocurrency staking program at the university and repurposes those dollars for a matching program and the creation of a smart contract research and development center at the university. Item number 69, just as a heads up, there are a couple of these that will require some conforming language. Item number 68 is one of those. The manner in which the amendment was divided creates a little bit of ambiguity.
So, Mr. Don, if we do nothing, what happens to that 4 million? It reverts when?
Mr. Chairman, I do believe it is subject to reversion if it is not matched prior to the end of the biennium.
Which biennium?
This current biennium, so 3 months from
2023
today.
biennium.
And I will double check that But I'm
Excuse me, the.
And
2 million.
Bill, has my understanding is that basically nothing's happened with us. Has the university done anything to attempt to do the matching dollars on this program? Do we know where it sits?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, are we talking blockchain now?
This is the smart contract.
Actually, it's either the blockchain contract, the smart contracts, or the original one was the crypto staking at the university.
Mr.
Crypto
Chairman,
staking node.
I just like to get Hibbard out of his chair now and then. Mr. Chairman, I think they did actually work on this thing all last summer. I don't believe that the matches have been obtained yet, though, if that's the question. And I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to track down your answer on the previous question, just to get it finalized for you.
So could we get an updated status? We'd like to know what was done, where they're at in the negotiations, and look like the language is a little bit modified now.
Yeah,
as
Mr.
I
Chairman.
understand it.
Yes, it's taking that 4 million and reappropriating it for a different purpose, having to do with blockchain, but nevertheless, it's different. much
Will do,
different
Mr.
purpose.
Chairman. I know you heard a lot of discussion about this on the Senate floor too, from the senator that's involved, so.
Mhm. Okay. All right, so then I think we're next one is 69.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this provides an additional $10.8 million for employee compensation for the executive branch, community colleges, judicial branch, and the university.
So, question, Kevin, as we look at that, as this footnote is right now, what's the effect and what does it do to the plan that y'all have put together in the executive to do this?
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that this would uniformly increase the plan as presented by the governor. So the percentages that the entities received would benefit from an additional $10 million to that original pot of money that was provided.
So the way you interpret this, it would simply be prorated among the plan.
As it is now. Yes.
And so when we say prorated, I mean, obviously that goes off is a proration to the department, just out to the departments, the various departments. Is that the proration, or does it go deeper than that? It's a proration also then between the move to market pay and separate between
It's just a proration
pay.
to the entities. And really the simple way to do this is we have a little file that we provided to LSO that showed the breakdown of how much community colleges and University of Wyoming and executive branch received, all the way even including the judicial conduct and ethics portion of it.
Mhm.
So if you just change that $31 million in the bottom of that and added $10 million, it would do the math for you. And it would just equally distribute that to the entities predicated on the percentage of that original amount that they received.
So, but when it goes to, so then it would just be up to each agency head about whether they apply that to the move to the 90% of the 2020 market or apply it to the incentive pay. How does that work inside each department? Is that the discretion?
In the
director?
executive branch side, so I'll separate the conversations on the two portions. On the executive plan side, so remember that it's a finite amount of money to move it to market. Once you're at market, then you can use the other amount for merit.
Well,
So the-
and now that's
so
an
the-
interesting question because I heard that differently the other day. Particularly when we were talking about, maybe it's different, but we were particularly talking about having discussions about troopers and the highway patrol and how, for example, as you go back and look at the plan and you called out I think it was Trooper 1 category, they're 37% below market. But my understanding is that their move to market is not completed by that. That they're not going to get to market. They're not going to make it to the 90% level.
Mr. Chairman,
Maybe I misunderstand.
so let me back up with just a little bit and let's talk about the special revenue portion.
Okay.
This $10 million is for the general fund portion of the compensation. And it'll be distributed in the same format that the original general fund appropriation was distributed. then any choice that's made by the legislature, then the special revenue agencies can go to that same extent. So in the case of the troopers, they're going to be able to go to their market amount that's established in the plan, and it'll be funded with S7 or state highway funds. So this $10 million doesn't go towards the troopers,
Right.
but it allows the troopers to enjoy more, but predicated on the fact that you do the market first and then you do the merit.
So backing up, so if I'm understanding the proportionality right, just going back to troopers, because it does affect this. But you can do the same scenario, because they weren't the only ones that were way below market. There's not a lot, but there's some that were down in this 30% rate below market. So if you're 37% below market, to get to the 90% of market, I think you've got to have about a 28% pay increase to get you to 90% of the market. Do they get put to that 90% of market before compensation pay happens? Or how does this work?
What'll happen is that the special revenue agencies will benefit through their special revenues to that percentage of market that everybody else enjoys.
Okay,
But it doesn't require us to provide them any general fund money.
right.
It just improves the payment plan. So what I'm stating is that the distance from market, now it will change because people come into the program and people, all this thing between now and the time of the implementation. So it's not finite, but the distance to market is finite because you're going to move that position from, like, let's say they're 28% away from market to the 90th percentile. That is a finite amount. And then after that, you can take the money and you can use it into performance pay.
Okay, so right there, I just want to make sure that what I think I heard you say was that let's take a generally funded clerical position in any generally funded department. They're 20% below market. And so to get to 90% of the market, they would have to have an 18% pay increase.
Correct.
Would that position, that clerk, get an 18% pay increase before money was applied for the incentive across that department?
Well, you can consider it all together at once, or you can suggest that it happens in the fact that they're going to do the market first. But I would think that what we do is you'd want to do the market first and leverage the money first for market. And then the merit portion would come afterwards. And then that same process would apply to the special revenue agencies as it's implemented. On the
Yeah, they get
side.
the license for one is
Mr.
the
Chairman.
license.
So, but the way you answered that is, it sounds to me like there's discretion in the agency, that they don't have to bring them all the way up to.
I didn't get to finish my
Mr.
original conversation. Okay, so the original question was, who gets to decide this? Okay,
Yeah.
and it's going to happen different. On the executive branch side, that's A&I, and they presented you the package of how they're going to perform that in the executive branch. The community colleges and the University of Wyoming have their process, and then they have their money that's going to be provided over to their side to do their similar activities with the money that they receive. But as far as the executive branch side goes, it's going to be implemented through the Department of Administration and Information.
Mr. Chairman.
Who you
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I'm
Mr.
not seeing
Chairman.
your hand.
No, Mr. Chairman, so my understanding of the 10 million and to go along with Director Hibbard, for particularly the executive branch, which is the conversations that I've had with A&I, the portion of the 10.8 million that would go to them would just be in addition to what was already approved within the 54 in that breakout. So I agree with Director Hibbard that the 10.8 million is going to be broken out pro rata against the percentages that you already had broken out for executive branch, judicial branch, and so on. With the executive branch portion, there's kind of two separate entities or two separate moves, if you will.
Mhm.
The first move is the min to min. So if you're at min of the current pay tables, you're going to move to min of the new pay tables. That is taken care of, and that'll be
And
taken
so
care of
stop right
first.
there. That's what I'm trying to lock in. I want to know if the first move is to get everybody to the min.
The min of the new pay tables. Yep, that'll happen
And that
first.
happens first.
Mhm. Yep.
So when we finish this, we come back, if we were to give us the plan and the booklet examples, again, after that happened, that what would result we would not see anybody below, we would not see any positions below 90% of the 2020 mark minimum.
It would be and when you say 90%, I always think of that toward the market value, but that'll be just the min of the pay table. So nobody will be below the min of their current pay tables.
What's the
So
minimum?
there's
Tell me the minimum pay table. I thought the point was to get up to 90% of the 2020 market.
And that would be the second step that we have. So in the second step is where there's going to be a combination of how far you are away from the mid, which is within that 90%, and then what your performance appraisal was. So it's kind of those two together. So it's not move to the market and your performance appraisal. My understanding is it's a combination of those two to where that would move you. So if you are further away from the market and you have a superior, you're going to get a higher percentage than if you're really close to the market and say you have a meets expectations. So that's where that range comes in those percentages.
I'm going to let Senator Stith ask this question. I think it's the same one I have. Go ahead, Senator. Or Representative Stith.
Mr. Chairman, two questions. One is big picture. If this is adopted, this 10.8 million, 54 million pay increases in the base budget which resulted in an average pay increase for state employees of about 5%. If we adopt this, does that make the average pay increase just on the average about 6%? That's the first question. And the second question is with respect to the highway patrol troopers, because they're paid with special revenue out of S7 and they're way below market. We have a choice whether to adopt this or not. And all I want to know is, does it make any difference to them?
Mr. Chairman, yes, yes. So by infusing more money on the general fund side for the executive branch, you increase that availability, then that same threshold will be broadcast to the special agencies with their special revenue. And that was the importance of the governor's letter, that we had that phrase in there that the special revenue agencies could follow in tow to whatever decision was finally made. So the answer would be yes, yes.
So the way my understanding of that then is good employees are going to get to market at least. Bad employees may not. Okay. Okay. What's that?
So just as a practical sense then, tell us what happens under this plan to level one trooper if he's, the satisfactory performance. Where does he end up?
So, Mr. Chairman, with the governor's letter on compensation, with the amount of money that we put into that, doing the math, there was something in the neighborhood of an average. Everybody, you can't guarantee that anybody's going to get, like for myself, because I'm at market. You can't say that I'm going to get a 5% increase. It's going to be different for everybody. So I just want to make that absolutely clear. But whatever matrix that is approved by the legislature, so if you assume that the average would be 5.1% on the governor's recommendation, and you add an additional $10 million to that, you could be looking at an average of 6%. But again, there's no guarantee that anybody, how it's going to work as far as what you are, as far as.
But what you're not answering is, if you're 34% below the 90%, theoretically, that person will be getting more than a 5%.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say is, because somebody that's farther from market might get something larger, people like myself that are closer to market is going to get less. So there's no guarantee on that. So it could have a wide range.
So what is the executive branch or the highway department telling Hyper Patrolman number 1, who's 30% below market, what he's going to get?
Because the reports we're getting is they're still going to be way below market.
That's what we want.
We're having individuals tell us in the lobby that they're going to be way below market, even with this, even with the.
Well, I think the answer to the question would be, if you're farther away from market, you're going to enjoy a higher percentage salary increase.
But once again, how difficult is it? Just show us an example. So So we can say, yeah, this is what the average patrolman is going to receive.
And so we can pick a trooper class and we can go through that class, and provide that information.
Would love it if you, I think that's exactly what we're asking. We just want to see how it works. And in that trooper class example, and we can extrapolate from there across the rest of the system because it's even though it's a special fund revenue, it's the same application process, I think.
Right, it applies the same.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we have that information from ANI, and I can get together with Director Bach and Aaron Williams and get that information to you of what that'll do to the troopers.
Yeah.
And the ultimate goal for the entire plan is to get everybody as close to market as we can.
Okay.
But ultimate means, I mean, what we were, our discussion, I think, with even the chief executive this week was not everyone's going to get there.
Right.
And so the other question we would want to know is what more is it going to take to get there? In other words, is it going to take another 30 million? Is it going to take another 20 million? So.
Mr. Chairman, those were those conversations kind of early on that we had as the ultimate goal would have everybody budgeted at market or the MPP. And my understanding is that is around an $80+ million ask is what that would be. So we've always known going into this is our first step, if you will. We know that we're not going to get everybody to market, but we want to make those moves to get there. So that 10 million to your question, that would be very helpful to get us to that.
So I think if you were to do this all within the biennium, I think what you just said then is that you'd be looking for another 25, $27 million to do that. And so if this 10, is this 10.8 then essentially a down payment on that?
Mr. Chairman, that would help us get closer.
All right. Okay, thank you. And no rush, but we'd really like to have that information by noon.
Mr. Chairman, I will get that.
All right, go ahead, Don. What time we got?
9:30.
9:30. Okay, go ahead, Don.
Mr. Chairman, I think we have about 5 left. Item number 70 provides a carve out of $10 million from the $100 million appropriation and specific energy matching appropriation, specifically directs these for public infrastructure for commercial energy development. Item number 71, House third reading amendment number 25. This sets in motion a 2-step phase for cash-based budgeting. The first component of the amendment directs a study to be prepared by the Select Committee on Capital Financing and Investments over the current interim. And secondly, it directs the next biennial budget to be developed based upon 2/3 of the last 3-year actual revenue. Item number 72, House third reading amendment number 31. This is the June 30, 2022 sweep from the budget reserve account to the LSRA. And once $300 million has been swept to the LSRA, the next 50, to the extent those funds are available, would be deposited into the Wyoming Tomorrow Scholarship Endowment should House Bill 31 be enacted into law.
And so, and if we go to according to the Craig right now, that would be 0.
That is correct.
Okay.
Item number 73, House third reading amendment number 40. This increases the maximum tip for fiscal year 2022 and 2023 for the 2 reserve accounts, the PMTF reserve account and the Common School Permanent Land Fund reserve account, from the existing statute of 150% before it tips into the corpus to 225%. And finally, Mr. Chairman, item number 74, House third reading amendment number 45 provides for a 13th payment for all retirees except for those enrolled in the Fire A program, including beneficiaries. Although the appropriation in subsection B is $5 million, subsection C provides amounts that are necessary, and our estimate at this time is about $6.4 million to fully fund this program.
Okay. All right, any more questions? So just talking about schedule, Mr. Co-Chair.
Before we do that.
Sure, go ahead.
On 74, I think it would be useful if we had someone from the retirement account come and just give us a quick input on their impacts to their fund, what that would be,
Yeah.
just so we have fully informed on it.
So we want to see the impact for,
I think that fund's 10 something billion. And so
Yeah.
the question is what impact that would have on.
and not, yeah, and in particular on any fund, I'd be very interested to know what it does to any fund that's under 100% funded. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions for staff or for this morning? So do you think that you could get your conference committee excused from general file this afternoon for a while, or are you guys in the middle of the budgets of the cap can?
But they're the top ones.
So I'm just wondering if maybe we could see if we could get together around 3 or so. I don't know if you guys
Just
have a
depends
heavy
on-
lift. We did that lift last week and week before, so we know it's
Depends
heavy.
on how fast we get through a second reading. Yeah,
Shoot
we'll
for
try.
3, and I mean, we're 3 or 4 or whatever, but just to get on it.
So I'll send you a note.
We've got, yeah, that'll work. And then we've got, here's some bills at noon. I don't know what you guys doing at noon.
We'll probably
Okay.
be hearing bills.
Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the committee? All right, thanks. And off we go.